This is much more strange than scary, but unnerving nevertheless. This past weekend, I went out on a date with an old friend from high school and was dropped back off at home at around 11:30 p.m. I live in a two-story apartment building located near the outer edge of town in a small residential area. And usually by this time the streets are empty and it's very quiet. I entered inside through the front door and began up the stairs. I was 3 or 4 steps from the top of the stairwell when I saw somebody I've never seen before sitting down on the floor with his back leaning against my apartment door, looking down at what I first thought was a phone, but was actually a box cutter which he was playing around with. I was flabbergasted and quietly asked if he would move so I could get inside, but he didn't acknowledge my existence. I quietly walked back down the stairs and knocked on a fellow tenant's door, but didn't get an answer. I tried again on 3 others when somebody finally came to. I told him about the creepy dude with the box cutter, and he agreed to help me out and to have the police on the phone if anything were to escalate or if the man refused to leave. We both went up the stairs and the guy was still sitting there, messing around with his box cutter. I stood there, observing, while the other tenant demanded that he move out of the way or else. Once again, no answer. Not even a change in facial expression. I walked back down the stairs and dialed the closest department, and they were going to send a trooper over as soon as they could. After sitting outside for a few minutes and still talking to dispatch, the man must have finally realized that he wasn't welcome, and I watched as he walked right past me out of the apartment building and onto the streets before disappearing into the distance. When the police arrived, they took statements from me and the other tenant, while another one of their units drove around to try and locate the man, which they did. However, because he wasn't breaking any laws, they weren't able to take action against him, but ensure us that he would be charged with trespassing if he ever comes back. Number 2. Weirdo on the bus that creeped me out enough to cry. I like to think that I'm a pretty tough person. My personality has been described as blunt, independent, and not necessarily always approachable. I am admittedly bad at making friends and can be quiet, so I've grown accustomed to doing everything on my own. It's worked out relatively well for me as I've lived in Morocco and I'm now working in Spain since when this happened, things that as a young woman I'm very proud of it. I've of course had encounters with creepy people over the years, but never something that gave me such a sense of instant dread. So let's paint the stage then. I was in my first year of college and was in a pretty abusive relationship. I wasn't aware of its nature and so was relatively depressed about everything going wrong between myself and my girlfriend. I was regularly seeing a therapist, but as I was closeted, I really mentioned things between she and I to him. Instead, we focused on treating symptoms of the depression. As I was only 18 and a freshman, I didn't have a car, didn't need one. I just took the bus everywhere. The city I was living in made that very easy. It was after my last appointment with that therapist that I met this dude. I thought he was probably an older student heading to class. We just exchanged pleasantries. Again, my personality can come across as a little jarring, so that's usually my best defense. However, we get to talking, and my therapist had recommended I get some more social time in. Small talk can't hurt, right? He asks for my name, about what I'm doing at my university, what I'm studying, you know the drill. Then it gets a bit creepy. What stop are you getting off at? Hesitantly, I tell him the one that I was going to, the one close to my set of dormitories. I ask him the same, figuring that he was just an older student. He tells me it's the one where the bookstore is. I recognize the name of it, as I travel these buses a lot. Getting a weird vibe at that, the bus thankfully arrived, and I told him to have a nice day. I hop on, set my bag on the other seat of the bus next to me, and put on headphones to shut him down. I do notice the dude's staring at me. Getting a weird as fuck vibe now, I hop off the bus stop just before the one I told him, and I begin hustling towards the shopping centre close to it. The dude gets off the bus right behind me, and he's walking just as fast as I am, freaking out now as the stop was way further up. He got off a mile and a half too soon. I call my friend, Carl. Carl's in class, and unfortunately I go straight to his voicemail. However, I work in a less than good part of town, and I know the drill for that. Instead of indicating that I missed him, I start like I'm talking to him. Hey Carl, it's me. I just needed to grab a few things from the Whole Food. I was wondering if you could meet me and help me carry them. And then gave a pause. Oh awesome, thanks so much. I forgot my backpack and I don't want to pay the bag tags. How's classes going? And then of course pretend to have a conversation with him. I do pause to look back every bit and see that the guy is slower but definitely still close behind me. I don't hang up until I'm inside the Whole Foods. I duck in and head towards the side of the place. Wait a moment to see the guy come in and look around. His hands are in his pockets and I make eye contact with him for a moment before heading calmly as I could to go to the back counter, the one where they, have meat and pizza and stuff. By that point, I'm pretty shaken up. He had followed me all the way here. Why was he doing that? If he wanted to come to this spot, we both could have gotten off at this stop I was supposed to get off of. That I knew for sure in a small shaky voice as I'm thinking through that myself. I tell the guy at the counter that someone had followed me here and I was just going to stick here and pretend to wait for a friend that I'd called. The guy, alarmed as I started to cry and my question was stuttered out, asks what the dude looked like, and I explain his appearance. He calls a coworker over to have him look for the dude in the store to see if perhaps he was just shopping. I felt really stupid, but when they said there was no one like that in the store, now I felt instantly better. My friend calls me back, and when he doesn't hear anything, I was talking to the guy at the counter why I thought I'd been followed. He rushes over to Whole Foods. He shows up and finds me back there, asking if I was alright and everything. He's known me for years and just hugs me when he sees I've been crying. We walked back to my dorm together as I explain everything. I don't necessarily know if something was up or not with him, but I just trusted my gut and decided it was too weird to be ignored. Why would he have gotten off the bus so early? Why get off at the wrong stop for the Whole Foods? Why come inside the Whole Foods with me and look, only to abruptly leave when he sees me go all the way in? I don't know. I hope I never know. Number 3. This happened to me and a friend maybe 5 years ago or so. Me, my friend, his younger sister, and his other friend went to the mall. I despise malls, but had nothing else better to do that day. We were all 18, save for his sister who was 15. We were getting ready to leave when his sister just had to go into the pink store. Ew. So not wanting to loiter in there due to obvious aromas and jarring lights and colours, my friend and I stood outside the entrance, leaning on the railing, overlooking the floor below. His friend surprisingly walking into the store with his little sister, but he was an odd guy. We're just quiet, people watching and the like. When I feel a cold hand grab my upper arm, I turn expecting to see my friend, who was only 2 feet away, but instead it was an old woman, 70s maybe. She held onto my arm, and with the other stroked my forearm while looking at me with wild eyes and saying, "You are so beautiful, just the perfect human specimen, just perfect." Then she turned to my friend, touched his arm and said that he was also a perfect specimen. It was so odd. I remember my friend and I making a remark after she left, but not talking about it with the others. almost like it was too unbelievable to utter any longer. So, lady in the mall, stop stroking strangers and... Oh, and that's not me. Hey guys, Itaku here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's been Itaku, and peace.